The rain hammered Aliquippa like God's own fist. Adam Ridley pulled his truck into the driveway, windshield wipers fighting a losing battle against the storm. Lightning split the sky, illuminating the small house he'd built with his own hands 3 years ago. Back when he thought he knew what love meant, thunder rolled across the valley as he killed the engine. The mill had shut down early due to flooding, sending the day shift home before the storm got worse. Adam grabbed his lunch pail and ran for the porch, boots splashing through puddles that reflected the angry sky. That's when he heard it, that a baby crying. His baby crying that Adam's blood turned to ice. Taylor was on the porch, soaked through her pink onesie, sitting in a puddle of rainwater. Her tiny fists beat the air as she wailed, her 18-month-old voice hoarse from screaming. Jesus Christ. Adam dropped his lunch pail and scooped up his daughter. Her clothes were drenched, her diaper heavy with rainwater. Taylor, baby, what are you doing out here? The front door opened. Maris stood there, dry as bone, watching him with empty eyes. Her blonde hair was perfect, makeup fresh. She wore the blue dress he'd bought her for their anniversary. Maris, what the hell? Why was Taylor outside? His wife looked at the crying child in his arms, then back at him. Her voice came out flat, matter of fact. I don't raise bastards. The words hit Adam like a punch to the gut. What did you say? You heard me. Maris stepped aside as he pushed past her into the house, Taylor still sobbing against his chest. The living room smelled like cigarettes and cheap perfume. Henrietta Clay sat in Adam's chair, the one he'd inherited from his uncle. The older woman looked up from her Bible, her gray hair pulled back in a tight bun. Her eyes held the cold judgment of someone who decided she was God's personal messenger. Should have thrown her in the trash when she came out, Henrietta muttered, not looking up from her reading. Adam's hand shook as he stripped Taylor's wet clothes. The little girl's skin was cold, too cold. He wrapped her in a kitchen towel and held her close. What's wrong with you people? She could have died out there. Maris lit a cigarette, blowing smoke toward the ceiling. Don't be dramatic. Dramatic? Adam's voice cracked. Our daughter was sitting in a thunderstorm. She's been crying so long she's lost her voice. She's not mine. Maris took another drag. Never was. Henrietta finally looked up. The Lord doesn't bless sin, Adam. That child is proof of your weakness. Adam stared at them both. These women who'd lived in his house, eaten his food, spent his money. Maris, who he'd married after 2 years of dating. Henrietta, who'd moved in 6 months ago to help with the baby. Maris, what are you talking about? Taylor is your daughter. You gave birth to her. His wife's laugh was cold as winter rain. DNA don't lie, Adam. Neither do paternity tests. The room tilted. Adam sat down hard on the couch. Taylor curled against his chest. Paternity tests? Had one done last month. Maris pulled a folded paper from her purse and dropped it on the coffee table. 99.9% certain. You're not the father. Adam's world collapsed. Every moment of the past year clicked into place like puzzle pieces. Maris pulling away from him. Her late nights out. The way she'd stopped looking at Taylor with love and started looking at her with resentment. Even if that's true, Adam said, his voice barely above a whisper, she's still a baby. She didn't do anything wrong. She's a reminder of your failure, Henrietta said. A good man would have kept his wife satisfied. Thunder crashed overhead. Taylor whimpered against Adam's chest, her tiny hand gripping his work shirt. Get out. Adam stood up slowly. Both of you. Get out of my house. Maris laughed. Your house. Check the deed, Adam. My name's on it too. I built this place with my own hands. Every board, every nail, and I helped pay for it. Half of everything is mine. Maris stubbed out her cigarette. Including her. Adam looked down at Taylor. The little girl had finally stopped crying, exhausted. Her dark hair was drying in soft curls, just like his sister's had when she was small. The thought hit him like lightning. It didn't matter if Taylor was his blood or not. She was his daughter in every way that mattered. He'd been there when she took her first breath, held her through every sleepless night, taught her to say dada. Love wasn't about DNA. I'm taking her, Adam said. Like hell you are. Henrietta stood up, all 5 feet of righteous fury. That child needs proper guidance. Christian guidance. From you. Adam's voice turned dangerous. You just said she should have been thrown in the trash. The Lord tests us, Adam. That child is a test of our faith. Adam grabbed the diaper bag from the floor and Taylor's stuffed elephant from the couch. She's not a test. She's a little girl who needs someone to love her. You can't take her, Maris said, but there was uncertainty in her voice now. Watch me. Adam headed for the door. Taylor was warm against his chest, breathing steady. Safe. Adam. Maris called after him. You walk out that door, don't come back. He paused at the threshold, rain blowing onto the porch. I built this house for a family, but a family protects each other. You two aren't family. He stepped into the storm. The rain hit them immediately, but Adam shielded Taylor with his body as he ran toward his truck. He had to get her somewhere warm and dry. Dell's garage was only a few blocks away. The street was a river of runoff from the hillsides. Adam ran through the ankle-deep water. Taylor clutched against his chest. Lightning illuminated the world in stark black and white. He was halfway across Maple Street when the pickup truck came screaming around the corner. The driver never saw them through the rain and darkness. Adam had a split second to make a choice. He could dodge left and maybe save himself, or he could twist right and take the impact on his back, shielding Taylor. There was no choice at all. Adam spun and took the hit. The truck's bumper caught him in the ribs and threw him 10 feet through the air. He hit the asphalt hard, sliding across the wet pavement. Pain exploded through his body like fire, but Taylor was safe. He'd managed to toss her onto the grass verge just before impact. She was crying again, but she was alive. The world went dark. Adam woke up to the sound of machines beeping. His mouth tasted like copper and medication. Every breath felt like broken glass in his chest. Easy there, champ. A voice he didn't recognize. You've been out for 11 days. Adam tried to speak, but his throat was raw. A nurse appeared beside his bed, adjusting something on an 4 stand. Mr. Ridley? I'm Dr. Patterson. You're in UPMC Presbyterian. You've been in a medically induced coma while we repaired your injuries. Injuries? Adam tried to take inventory. His left leg was in a cast. His ribs were wrapped tight. His right arm was in a sling. Taylor, he croaked. The doctor and nurse exchanged a look. Who's Taylor? My daughter. Is she okay? Where is she? Mr. Ridley, there's been some complications while you were unconscious. A social worker will be in shortly to explain. Where's my daughter? Adam tried to sit up, but pain shot through his torso like lightning. The door opened and a woman in a business suit walked in. She carried a clipboard and wore the expression of someone delivering bad news. Mr. Ridley, I'm Janet Morrison from Children's Services. I need to discuss your daughter's current situation. Adam's blood turned cold. What situation? Your wife filed a protective order against you. She's alleged that you've been physically abusing your daughter. The words didn't compute. That's not possible. She provided photographic evidence of injuries to the child, bruising on her arms and legs. A medical report documenting concerning behavioral changes. Taylor fell down. She's learning to walk. Kids that age fall all the time. Janet Morrison's expression didn't change. Your wife also stated that you became violent when confronted about the abuse, that you grabbed the child and ran into traffic, endangering her life. I was protecting her. They left her outside in a thunderstorm. Your wife claims you were intoxicated and attacked her mother, that you threatened both of them before fleeing with the child. Adam stared at the ceiling. Every word was a lie, but he could see how they'd twisted the truth. The rain. His desperation to get Taylor to safety. The accident. Where's Taylor now? She's in temporary custody with your wife. The court felt it was in the child's best interest. No. Adam tried to sit up again, ignoring the pain. You don't understand. They don't care about her. They were going to let her die. Mr. Ridley, I understand this is difficult, but making unfounded accusations won't help your case. It's not unfounded. My wife told me she doesn't raise bastards. Her mother said Taylor should have been thrown in the trash. Janet Morrison made a note on her clipboard. Your wife mentioned you might make claims like this. She said you've been having paranoid episodes since discovering the child wasn't biologically yours. The trap was perfect. Every defense he could make sounded like the ravings of a violent, unstable man. They'd thought this through. I want to see my lawyer. Of course. But I should warn you, The evidence against you is substantial. Your best option might be to cooperate with our investigation and complete anger management counseling. I'm not angry. I'm scared for my daughter. Mr. Ridley, the court has ordered a psychological evaluation. If you truly care about Taylor, you'll work with us to prove you're not a danger to her. After the social worker left, Adam lay in a hospital bed staring at the white ceiling tiles. 11 days. They'd had 11 days to build their case while he was unconscious, doctor. Patterson returned with discharge papers. You'll need physical therapy for the leg. The ribs will heal on their own, but no heavy lifting for at least 6 weeks. When can I go home? Actually, there's been an issue with that. Your wife changed the locks and filed a restraining order. You can't go within 500 feet of the residence. Adam's hands clenched into fists. It's my house. I built it. I'm sorry, Mr. Ridley. Legal matters are outside my expertise. A knock on the door interrupted them. Del Harker stuck his head in, his weathered face creased with worry. Adam? Jesus, you look like hell. Del. Adam had never been so glad to see anyone in his life. I've been trying to visit for days. They said family only. Del stepped into the room, holding a paper bag. Brought you some clothes. Figured you might need them. Dr. Patterson excused himself, leaving the two men alone. Del, they took Taylor. I know. Whole town's talking about it. Del pulled a chair close to the bed. Maris has been telling everyone you went crazy. Beat the hell out of that baby. It's not true. I know it's not true. Knew you since you were 12 years old. You never laid a hand on anyone who didn't deserve it. Del leaned forward. Question is, what are you going to do about it? Adam looked down at his broken body. Cast on his leg. Ribs wrapped tight. No home. No money except what was in his wallet. I don't know. Well, I do. Del stood up. You're coming to stay at the garage. Got a back room with a cot. Ain't much, but it's dry. Del, I can't ask you to. You ain't asking. I'm telling. Del's voice was firm. Besides, I could use the help. Business has been picking up. Adam felt something ease in his chest. Not hope exactly, but the absence of complete desperation. There's something else, Del said. Dina Sorrell stopped by the garage yesterday. You remember Dina? Works at the courthouse. Adam nodded. He'd helped Dina change a flat tire 2 winters ago when her car broke down on Route 18. She wanted me to give you this. Del pulled an envelope from his jacket. Said she wasn't supposed to, but figured you deserved to see what they filed against you. Adam opened the envelope with shaking hands. Inside was a copy of the Child Protective Services report. He read it twice, his anger building with each line. Photographs of bruises that looked nothing like the minor bumps Taylor had gotten from falling. A medical report from a doctor Adam had never heard of. Statements claiming Adam had a history of violence and substance abuse. It's all lies, Adam said. I know. Question is, can you prove it? Del's garage sat on the outskirts of town, a squat concrete building surrounded by dead cars and rusted equipment. The back room was barely bigger than a closet, but it had a cot, a space heater, and a small window that looked out on the hills beyond Aliquippa. Adam had been there a week, his body slowly healing, his mind working through the problem like a machine. Every morning, he woke up thinking about Taylor. Every night, he fell asleep planning how to get her back. The restraining order meant he couldn't go near his own house, but it didn't stop him from driving past on his way to physical therapy. The first time he saw Maris's car in the driveway, parked next to a black pickup he didn't recognize, his hands clenched the steering wheel so tight his knuckles went white. The second time, he parked across the street and watched. Maris came out at 10 in the morning, dressed like she was going to church. No sign of Taylor. She got in her car and drove toward town. Henrietta emerged 20 minutes later, also dressed up, also without Taylor. She climbed into the black pickup. Adam sat there for another hour, watching the house. No movement in the windows. No sign of his daughter. 18 noon, he drove to the courthouse. Dina Sorrell was behind the counter in the family court office, processing paperwork with the efficient movements of someone who'd been doing the same job for years. She looked up when Adam approached, then glanced around to make sure they were alone. Adam, how are you feeling? Like I got hit by a truck. It was meant to be a joke, but neither of them smiled. I'm sorry about what happened. With Taylor, I mean. Dina, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be straight with me. She nodded. That CPS report. You've processed hundreds of them. Does it look right to you? Dina glanced around again, then leaned across the counter. Can I speak honestly? Please. It's sloppy. The photos don't match the injury descriptions. The medical report is from a clinic that doesn't handle pediatric cases. And the timeline doesn't make sense. What do you mean? The report says you've been abusing Taylor for months, but the first documented complaint was filed the day after your accident. If someone really thought a child was being abused, why wait? Adam felt a flicker of hope. Would you be willing to testify to that? Adam, I could lose my job. I understand, but Taylor could lose her life. Dina was quiet for a long moment. Let me think about it. That evening, Adam sat in Dell's office, going through the CPS report line by line. Dell worked on a carburetor at the next bench, occasionally looking over Adam's shoulder. This photograph, Adam said, pointing to one of the bruised pictures. This isn't Taylor's arm. How can you tell? She has a birthmark on her left wrist. Looks like a tiny strawberry. This arm doesn't have it. Dell wiped his hands on a rag. So they used someone else's kid? Or an old photo from another case? Adam set the report down. Dell, they planned this. While I was unconscious, they built an entire case based on lies. But why? If Maris wanted a divorce, why not just file for one? Adam had been asking himself the same question. Money. The house, my truck, my tools. If I'm declared an unfit parent and a domestic abuser, she gets everything. What about Taylor? I don't think they care about Taylor. She's just leverage. Dell was quiet for a moment. You know what you need to do, right? What? Same thing we did when the mill tried to screw us on overtime pay. You need to document everything. Build your own case. Adam looked down at his hands. Still healing from the accident, but getting stronger. How do I document child abuse when I can't go near my own daughter? You start with what you can see. Maris and her mother, they got comfortable while you were in the hospital. They think they won. People who think they won get careless. The next morning, Adam drove to Westendale's bar. The Rusty Anchor sat on the corner of Main and Fifth, a narrow building wedged between a pawn shop and a check-cashing place. At 10 in the morning, the parking lot was empty except for Weston's truck and a familiar blue sedan. Maris's car. Adam parked where he could see the front door and waited. Through the bar's tinted windows, he could make out two figures sitting close together at a table. One blonde, one dark dash-haired. OT 11:30. They moved to the back of the bar, disappearing from view. Adam took out his phone and started taking pictures of the cars, the building, the timestamp. At noon, Maris came out alone. She walked to her car with the careful steps of someone who'd had a few drinks. Adam followed her. She drove straight home. Adam parked across the street and watched her stumble up the front steps of the house he'd built. She went inside, in no sign of Taylor. Adam waited another hour, then drove back to Weston's bar. The black pickup was still there. That night, Adam called his cousin Malone in Pittsburgh. Malone Ridley was 5 years older than Adam, a quiet man who'd put himself through law school working construction. They'd been close as kids, but had drifted apart as adults. Adam? Jesus, I heard about the accident. How are you? Not good, Malone. I need help. Adam explained the situation. The lies, the restraining order, the custody battle. Malone listened without interrupting. Adam, this is serious. Child abuse allegations can destroy your life, even if they're false. I know. That's why I need a lawyer I can trust. I don't handle family law. You need someone who specializes in custody cases. I need someone who gives a damn. Someone who'll fight. Malone was quiet for a moment. Let me make some calls. But Adam, you need to be careful. Don't do anything that could make this worse. Like what? Like following your wife around taking pictures. Like violating the restraining order. Like anything that makes you look like the unstable, violent man they're claiming you are. After he hung up, Adam sat in the dark garage, staring out the window at the hills. Malone was right. He had to be smarter than this. But every minute Taylor spent with Maris and Henrietta was another minute she was in danger. He'd seen the emptiness in Maris's eyes, the cruel indifference in Henrietta's voice. His daughter was alone with people who hated her. Adam pulled out his phone and scrolled through his contacts until he found the number he was looking for. Rory Kemp had been a year behind him in high school. She'd become a social worker, one of the good ones according to people in town. Hello, Rory? This is Adam Ridley. Adam, oh my God, I heard about your accident. Are you okay? I'm alive. Rory, I need to ask you about something. About the CPS system. There was a pause. Adam, if this is about your case, I can't. It's not your case, right? You didn't handle Taylor's placement. No, that was handled by the county office. Then you can look at it objectively. As a professional. Another pause. What do you need? I need someone to tell me if what happened to my daughter follows normal procedures. Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like someone took shortcuts. Adam, I could get in trouble just talking to you about this. I'm not asking you to break any rules. I'm asking you to look at a case file and tell me if it's legitimate. Rory sighed. Meet me at Eden Park tomorrow at 7. The one on Beaver Road. And Adam, don't bring anyone else. The Eden Park was nearly empty at 7 in the evening. Adam sat in a corner booth, nursing a cup of coffee that had gone cold 20 minutes ago. His leg throbbed in the cast, but the pain was nothing compared to the hollow ache in his chest every time he thought about Taylor. Rory Kemp walked through the door at 7:15, scanning the restaurant until she spotted him. She looked older than he remembered from high school, her brown hair pulled back in a professional bun, wearing a gray suit that had seen better days. Sorry I'm late, she said, sliding into the booth across from him. Had to finish up a home visit. Thanks for coming. Rory ordered coffee from the waitress, then pulled a manila folder from her briefcase. I pulled your daughter's file. Adam, I have to ask you straight out, did you hurt that little girl? No, never. She studied his face for a long moment. I've been doing this job for 6 years. I've seen real abuse cases, and I've seen false allegations. This file, she tapped the folder with her finger. This doesn't feel right. What do you mean? The photos are wrong. Real abuse photos show healing at different stages. These bruises are all the same age, same color, like they were taken in a single session. Adam leaned forward. Single session. The medical report bothers me too. It's from Riverside Pediatrics, but they don't see walk-in patients. You need a referral and an appointment weeks in advance. So how did Taylor get examined there? According to this, your wife brought her in for an emergency consultation, but there's no record of payment, no insurance billing, no follow-up appointment. The waitress brought Rory's coffee. She waited until they were alone again before continuing. Adam, I think someone created this file to fit a predetermined outcome. Real CPS investigations take time. We do home visits, interview neighbors, check medical records. This case was opened and closed in 48 hours. Can you prove that? Not officially, but I can tell you what I see as a professional. Rory opened the folder and pulled out several photographs. Look at these injury photos. See the timestamp? Adam squinted at the tiny numbers in the corner. March 15th. Your accident was March 20th. These photos were taken 5 days before you supposedly lost control and hurt your daughter. The pieces clicked into place. They were planning this before the accident. It looks that way. Rory closed the folder. Adam, I can't get involved in your case officially, but if you find real evidence of fraud or perjury, I know people who'll listen. What kind of evidence? Documentation, recordings, financial records, something that proves they lied to the court. Adam drove back to Dell's garage with Rory's words echoing in his head. They'd been planning this for weeks, maybe months. The accident had just given them the perfect opportunity to execute their plan. The next morning, Adam parked across from Weston's bar at 9:30. Maris's car pulled into the lot 10 minutes later. She went inside and stayed for 3 hours. During that time, Adam saw no sign of Taylor. When Maris finally came out, she was laughing at something Weston had said. He followed her to the door, kissed her on the mouth, then watched her drive away. Adam took pictures of everything. That afternoon, he followed Maris to the grocery store. She spent 47 minutes inside, buying liquor and cigarettes. No baby food, no diapers, no children's medicine. More pictures at 5 o'clock. He followed her home. She went inside alone. Henrietta's pickup wasn't in the driveway. Adam parked and waited. At 6:30, Henrietta returned with Taylor in a car seat. The little girl was crying as Henrietta carried her into the house. That Adam's hands shook as he took pictures of his daughter. She looked smaller than he remembered, her face red from crying. Henrietta handled her roughly, like she was carrying a bag of groceries instead of a child. That evening, Adam sat in Dell's office with a notebook, writing down everything he'd observed. Times, locations, behaviors. Building a timeline of neglect. You're building a case, Dell said, looking over his shoulder. I'm documenting the truth. Good, but you need more than photos of your wife drinking at a bar. Adam looked up from his notes. What do you mean? I mean, you need proof they're hurting Taylor. And you need proof they lied to the court. How do I get that? Dell was quiet for a moment, working on an engine. You remember Olin McNabb from Second Baptist? Yeah, I remember him. He got kicked out of that church about 6 months ago. Had a big fight with Henrietta Clay about missing money. Adam set down his pen. What kind of missing money? Church runs a youth program. Collects donations for kids' activities, summer camp, that sort of thing. Olin was helping with the books and noticed some irregularities. What kind of irregularities? Money going out to companies that don't exist. Checks made out to vendors nobody ever heard of. When he started asking questions, Henrietta had him removed from the board. Adam felt something stir in his chest. Not hope exactly, but possibility. Where's Olin now? Lies out on Route 30. Big white farmhouse with a red barn. Runs a small engine repair shop out of his garage. The next morning, Adam drove to Olin McNabb's place. The farmhouse sat on a hill overlooking the Ohio River, surrounded by fields that had gone to weeds. Olin was in his garage, working on a riding mower. Adam Ridley, Olin said, looking up from the engine. Heard about your troubles. Sorry about that. Thanks. Olin, I need to ask you about something. About Henrietta Clay and the church. Olin's expression darkened. That woman is poison. Dell mentioned you had problems with missing money. Missing money, hell. That woman's been stealing from the church for over a year. Olin wiped his hands on a rag. Youth program brings in about $3,000 a month in donations. Henrietta was supposed to manage the account, but she was writing checks to fake companies and pocketing the money. Can you prove that? I made copies of everything before they kicked me out. Bank statements, canceled checks, invoices from companies that don't exist. Olin walked to a filing cabinet and pulled out a thick folder. Henrietta Clay stole over $30,000 from that church. Adam looked through the documents. Check after check made out to Valley Youth Services and Christian Family Outreach, companies with addresses that led to empty lots and abandoned buildings. Why didn't you go to the police? I tried, but Henrietta convinced the pastor I was trying to frame her. Said I was angry about being removed from the board. Olin shook his head. Politics, church politics, are uglier than the regular kind. Would you be willing to testify about this? In court? Against Henrietta Clay? Olin thought for a moment. If it helps you get your little girl back, yes. That afternoon, Adam sat his truck outside the church, watching Henrietta go in for evening service. He thought about the stolen money, the lies, the elaborate scheme to destroy his life. His phone rang. Malone. Adam, I found you a lawyer. Patricia Webb. She handles complex custody cases, and she's got a reputation for fighting dirty when she needs to. When can I meet her? Tomorrow morning. Her office in Pittsburgh. But Adam, she's expensive. How expensive? $5,000 retainer. Maybe $15,000 total if it goes to trial. Adam looked at his bank balance on his phone. $800. I'll figure it out. That night, Adam lay on the cot in Dell's garage, staring at the ceiling. He had evidence of financial fraud, documentation of neglect, proof that the CPS report was fabricated. But he needed more, that he needed to prove Maris and Henrietta were unfit guardians. And he needed to do it without violating the restraining order. The answer came to him at 3 in the morning. Technology, Patricia Webb's office occupied the 20th floor of a downtown Pittsburgh high-rise. Through the windows, Adam could see the 3 rivers spread out below, barges moving slowly through the brown water. Webb was younger than he'd expected, maybe 40, with short red hair and the kind of sharpsuit that cost more than Adam made in a month. She read through the CPS file with the focused attention of a surgeon examining x-rays. This is garbage, she said finally. Whoever put this together was either incompetent or corrupt. Can you prove that in court? Maybe. But proving the file is fake doesn't automatically get you custody. We need to prove your wife is an unfit guardian. Webb pulled out a legal pad. Tell me about her behavior since the accident. Adam went through everything. The drinking, the affair with Weston, the long absences from home. Webb took notes, occasionally asking clarifying questions. "The problem is documentation," she said when he finished. "Photos of your wife at a bar don't prove she's neglecting your daughter. We need evidence of actual harm to the child." "What kind of evidence?" "Medical records showing missed appointments. Teachers or daycare workers documenting behavioral problems. Something that shows the child is suffering under their care. Taylor's only 18 months old. She doesn't go to daycare. Then we need to get creative." Webb leaned back in her chair. "Tell me about the restraining order. Exactly what does it say?" Adam pulled out the court document. "I can't go within 500 feet of the residence or make contact with my wife or her mother." "What about electronic surveillance?" "What do you mean?" "Security cameras, audio recordings, GPS tracking. The restraining order doesn't prevent you from gathering evidence as long as you're not physically present." Adam felt a spark of hope. "Is that legal?" "In Pennsylvania, you can record conversations if one party consents. You can install security cameras on your own property. And you can track vehicles if you have a legitimate interest in their whereabouts." "The house is half mine." "Exactly." Webb made another note. "I'll need $5,000 to get started. That covers filing motions and initial investigation." Adam thought about his bank balance. "I'll get you the money." "Good. In the meantime, be careful. Don't violate that restraining order. Don't do anything that makes you look unstable. And document everything." That afternoon, Adam drove to an electronics store in Cranberry Township. He bought 3 small cameras, a GPS tracker, and a digital recorder. Total cost, $850. His entire bank account. But it was an investment in Taylor's future. Dell helped him install the equipment that night. They worked by flashlight, Dell keeping watch while Adam placed cameras to cover the front door, driveway, and backyard of his house. "You sure about this?" Dell asked as Adam adjusted the angle on the front door camera. "I'm sure they're hurting my daughter. I'm sure they lied to the court. And I'm sure this is the only way to prove it." The GPS tracker went under Maris's car while she was inside Weston's bar. Adam had practiced the installation in Dell's garage, timing himself until he could do it in less than 30 seconds. The recorder was trickier. It needed to be hidden somewhere Taylor spent time, somewhere it could pick up conversations. Adam thought about the house layout, remembering where Maris and Henrietta usually Saturday the answer was Taylor's stuffed elephant. The one Adam had grabbed when he ran from the house during the storm, he'd left it behind when the paramedics took him to the hospital. It was probably still in Taylor's room. Getting it back would mean entering the house, violating the restraining order. Adam sat in his truck across from the house, watching. At 10 in the morning, both cars left. Maris heading toward town, Henrietta driving in the opposite direction. The house was empty. Adam had maybe an hour before one of them returned. He crossed the street, his heart pounding. The spare key was still under the loose board on the back porch where he'd always kept it. Inside, the house felt like a crime scene. Everything was different. The furniture had been rearranged. His tools were gone from the basement. His clothes had been cleared out of the bedroom. Taylor's room was the worst. Her crib was unmade, toys scattered on the floor. The room smelled like cigarette smoke and dirty diapers. Adam found the stuffed elephant on the closet floor, thrown in with other discarded toys. He worked quickly, opening a small seam and installing the recorder inside. The device was the size of a thumb drive, with a battery that would last 72 hours. He was back in his truck 15 minutes later, sweating despite the cool morning air. That evening, he tested the cameras from Dell's garage. The footage was clear, the audio crisp. He could see the front door, the driveway, and part of the backyard. The GPS tracker was working too. Maris had spent 3 hours at Weston's bar, then driven to a liquor store, then home. Now all he had to do was wait. The first week of surveillance was routine. Maris drinking at Weston's bar while Henrietta watched Taylor. Both women coming and going at odd hours, leaving the house empty for long stretches. The GPS data was damning. Maris made daily trips to the bar, the liquor store, and sometimes to a house Adam didn't recognize. She never went to the pediatrician, the grocery store for baby supplies, or anywhere that suggested she was caring for a child. The audio from Taylor's room was harder to listen to. His daughter crying for long periods without anyone responding. Henrietta's voice, cold and dismissive, telling Taylor to shut up and stop being a brat. But Adam needed more. He needed proof of actual abuse that on Thursday morning, the cameras caught something. Henrietta carrying Taylor outside, the little girl screaming and fighting. Henrietta shook her roughly, then left her sitting on the porch steps while she went back inside. Taylor was outside for over an hour, crying and calling for Dada. Adam watched the footage with tears in his eyes. His daughter needed him, and he couldn't be there, but the cameras could. Friday afternoon, Adam got a call from Rory Kemp. Adam, I shouldn't be telling you this, but there's been a complaint filed against your wife. What kind of complaint? Anonymous tip to the child abuse hotline. Someone reported seeing Taylor left alone in a car outside Weston's bar. Adam's pulse quickened. What happens now? County CPS will investigate. They'll do a home visit, interview your wife, check on Taylor's welfare. When? Could be today, could be next week. These things move slowly. That evening, Adam reviewed all his evidence. Photos of Maris at the bar. GPS data showing her whereabouts. Audio recordings of Henrietta being cruel to Taylor. Video of neglect and abandonment. It was substantial, but Webb was right. He needed proof of actual harm. The answer came the next morning when he reviewed the latest audio from Taylor's room. Henrietta was giving Taylor a bath, and the little girl was crying. Not the normal fussing of a toddler being washed, but the desperate screaming of someone in pain. Hold still, you little brat. Henrietta's voice was sharp. This is what happens when you wet yourself. The water was too hot. Adam could hear Taylor's cries, could hear Henrietta's cruel words. Stop crying, or I'll give you something to cry about. There was a splash. Then Taylor's screams became muffled, like she was underwater. Adam's hand shook as he listened. Henrietta was hurting his daughter, and he had proof. Adam drove to Patricia Webb's office with 3 days of audio recordings and a week's worth of surveillance footage. His hand shook as he played the bathroom audio for her. Webb's expression grew darker with each passing minute. This is criminal child abuse, she said when the recording ended. We need to get this to CPS immediately. What about the custody case? This changes everything. We're not just fighting for custody anymore. We're trying to save your daughter's life. Webb made copies of everything, then picked up her phone. I'm calling the DA's office. This evidence needs to be reviewed by someone who can file criminal charges. While Webb made her calls, Adam sat in the waiting room, staring out at the Pittsburgh skyline. For the first time since the accident, he felt like he was winning. His phone buzzed. Text message from an unknown number. Stop watching the house. You don't know what you're dealing with. Adam deleted the message and put his phone away. They knew he was watching. Good. Let them sweat. Webb emerged from her office 20 minutes later. The DA wants to see everything. Can you come back tomorrow morning? Of course. Adam, I need you to understand something. Once we file these recordings with the authorities, there's no going back. Your wife and her mother will be arrested. This will be front-page news in Aliquippa. I don't care about embarrassing them. I care about protecting Taylor. Good, because it's about to get ugly. That evening, Adam called Malone. I need to ask you about something legal, Adam said. About property inheritance. What kind of property? Uncle Dell left me his land when he died. 5 acres up on Raccoon Creek. Maris and I never did anything with it, but it's worth maybe $50,000. Okay, what's the question? Maris has power of attorney for my financial affairs. She got it when I was in the hospital in case decisions needed to be made about my care. There was a long pause. Adam, please tell me she didn't try to sell that land. I think she might have. There was paperwork on the kitchen table when I went to get Taylor's toy. Something about a real estate transaction. Jesus. If she sold property without your consent, that's fraud. Felony fraud. Even if she has power of attorney. Power of attorney for medical decisions doesn't extend to major financial transactions, especially not real estate sales. Malone's voice was grim. Adam, if she really did this, she's looking at serious prison time. How do I find out for sure? County Recorder's Office. Property transfers are public record. The next morning, Adam drove to the courthouse before his meeting with the DA. Dina Sorrell helped him search the property records. Here it is, she said, pointing to a computer screen. Deed transfer filed 3 days ago. 5 acres on Raccoon Creek Road, sold to Mountain Vista Development for $48,000. Adam stared at the screen. She actually did it. The signature looks off to me, Dina said, squinting at the document. This doesn't look like your handwriting. Because it's not. I never signed anything. Adam, this is forgery. You need to report this to the police. Not yet. I want to let the sale go through first. Dina looked at him like he was crazy. Why? Because attempted fraud is a misdemeanor. Completed fraud is a felony. At the DA's office, Adam met with Assistant District Attorney James Morrison, a thin man in his 50s who listened to the audio recordings with the grim expression of someone who'd heard too many stories of child abuse. This is enough for criminal charges, Morrison said. Child endangerment, abuse, possibly attempted drowning. I'll have arrest warrants issued this afternoon. What about the custody case? Emergency hearing. We'll ask the judge to place your daughter in protective custody until this gets sorted out. When? Tomorrow morning, if I can get on the docket. Adam felt a surge of hope. So Taylor could be safe tomorrow, if everything goes according to plan. But Adam had learned not to trust plans. That afternoon, he drove past his house one more time. Both cars were in the driveway. Through the windows, he could see figures moving around inside. His phone rang. Patricia Webb. Adam, there's been a complication. Someone tipped off your wife about the investigation. What do you mean? She just filed an emergency motion claiming you've been stalking her and violating the restraining order. She's asking for additional protection and immediate relocation of your daughter. Adam's blood turned cold. Can she do that? She could try. The hearing is tomorrow morning at 9. Same time as our emergency hearing. So what happens? We present our evidence and hope the judge sees through their lies. But Adam, if they can prove you violated the restraining order, it could undermine everything we've built. After he hung up, Adam sat in his truck, thinking. They were trying to flip the script again, turn him from victim to perpetrator. But this time, he had evidence, and he had one more card to play. Adam drove to the county recorder's office and filed a criminal complaint for real estate fraud. The paperwork was simple, but the implications were massive. Maris Clay had sold property that didn't belong to her. She'd forged his signature and pocketed $48,000 in Pennsylvania. That was a first-degree felony, punishable by up to 20 years in prison. The warrant would be issued within 24 hours. That evening, Adam sat in Dell's garage, reviewing his evidence one more time. Audio recordings of abuse. Video footage of neglect. Financial records showing fraud. GPS data proving abandonment. IT was more than enough to get Taylor back. The question was whether it would be enough to keep her safe. Adam woke up at 5 in the morning to the sound of sirens. Through the small window of Dell's garage, he could see police cars racing toward town, their red and blue lights cutting through the dawn darkness. His phone rang. Patricia Webb. Adam, turn on the news. Adam found an old television in Dell's office and switched to the local morning show. The lead story made his heart race. 2 Aliquippa women were arrested early this morning on charges related to child abuse and financial fraud. Maris Clay and her mother Henrietta Clay are being held without bail pending arraignment. The reporter stood outside the county jail, reading from a prepared statement. Behind her, Adam could see a crowd gathering. People from town, some he recognized, others he didn't. The charges stem from an investigation into alleged abuse of an 18-month-old child, as well as theft of over $30,000 from Second Baptist Church's youth program. Adam's phone was buzzing with text messages. Dell, Malone, people from a mill he hadn't talked to in months. The story was spreading through Aliquippa like wildfire. Adam, Webb's voice on the phone. Are you watching this? Yeah. The custody hearing has been moved up to 8 this morning. Emergency session. Can you be there? I'll be there. Adam drove to the courthouse through streets buzzing with activity. People stood in small groups, talking in hushed voices. He caught fragments of conversation as he passed. Always knew something was wrong with that Henrietta woman. Poor little Taylor. Thank God someone finally did something. Adam Ridley's a good man. Never should have happened to him. Inside the courthouse, the hallway was packed. Adam spotted Olin McNabb talking to a reporter, gesturing with his hands as he explained the financial fraud. Dina Sorrell hurried past carrying files, giving Adam a quick nod of support. Webb met him outside the courtroom. The DA moved fast on this. Both women were arrested at 6 this morning. Where's Taylor? Protective custody. She's at the hospital being examined by a pediatrician. We'll know more later. Judge Patricia Coleman was already on the bench when they entered the courtroom. A stern woman in her 60s, she'd been handling family court cases for over 20 years. Adam had heard she didn't tolerate nonsense from anyone. This is an emergency hearing regarding custody of minor child Taylor Clay. Judge Coleman began. I've reviewed the evidence submitted by both parties, and I've been briefed on the criminal charges filed this morning. She looked directly at Adam. Mr. Ridley, you're seeking emergency custody of your daughter based on allegations of abuse and neglect by the current guardians. Yes, Your Honor. Ms. Webb, present your evidence. Webb stood and activated a laptop connected to the courtroom's projection system. Your Honor, over the past 2 weeks, Mr. Ridley has documented a pattern of systematic abuse and neglect. The first piece of evidence was the audio recording from Taylor's bath time. Judge Coleman's expression grew harder as Henrietta's cruel voice filled the courtroom. Stop crying, or I'll give you something to cry about. The sound of Taylor's muffled screams as she was held underwater was unbearable. Several people in the gallery gasped. This recording was made 3 days ago, Webb continued. It clearly shows Mrs. Clay attempting to drown an 18-month-old child. Next came the surveillance footage. Hours of video showing Taylor left alone on the porch, crying while Maris and Henrietta were inside, drinking or gone entirely. The GPS data shows Mrs. Clay spent an average of 4 hours per day at a local bar while her daughter was supposedly in her care, Webb said, displaying charts and timelines. During these periods, Taylor was left alone with Mrs. Henrietta Clay, who had no legal custody rights. Judge Coleman took notes throughout the presentation. When Webb finished, she called for a brief recess in the hallway. Adam was approached by Rory Kemp. I wanted you to know, she said quietly, the hospital examination found evidence of physical abuse. Bruising consistent with rough handling, signs of malnourishment, and severe diaper rash from prolonged neglect. Adam's hands clenched into fists. How bad? Bad enough that Child Services is recommending immediate removal from the home. Permanently. When court resumed, Judge Coleman had reached her decision. Based on the evidence presented, I'm granting emergency custody to Mr. Ridley, effective immediately. The child will remain in protective custody until Mr. Ridley can demonstrate adequate housing and child care arrangements. Adam felt relief wash over him like a wave. Thank you, Your Honor. Furthermore, Judge Coleman continued, I'm ordering a complete investigation into the original custody ruling. The evidence suggests possible perjury and fabrication of documents in the initial CPS report. After court, Adam drove to the hospital. Taylor was in the pediatric ward, being cared for by nurses who treated her with a gentleness she'd been denied for weeks. When Adam walked into the room, Taylor looked up from her hospital bed and smiled for the first time since the accident. Dada! Adam picked up his daughter and held her close, feeling her tiny heart beat against his chest. She was thinner than he remembered, with dark circles under her eyes and healing bruises on her arms. But she was alive. She was safe. She was his. The story dominated local news for a week. Every day brought new revelations about the depth of Maris and Henrietta's deception. The state audit of Second Baptist Church revealed that Henrietta had stolen over $40,000 over 18 months, funneling donations into fake companies and pocketing the money. Church members who trusted her with their children's program funds felt betrayed and angry. The real estate fraud case was even more damaging. Maris had not only forged Adam's signature, but had also lied to the title company about her authority to sell the property. The buyer, Mountain Vista Development, was demanding their money back and threatening their own lawsuit. Adam spent his days at the hospital with Taylor, watching her slowly recover from weeks of neglect. The pediatricians were cautiously optimistic. No permanent physical damage, but she would need time to heal emotionally. She's been through trauma, Dr. Sarah Patterson explained. Children this age can't verbalize what happened to them, but they remember. You'll need to be patient with regression, nightmares, maybe some behavioral issues. Whatever she needs, Adam said on Friday afternoon. Patricia Webb called with an update. The DA is offering Maris a plea deal. 15 years for the fraud, 5 years for child endangerment. Sentences to run concurrently. She'd be out in 8 years with good behavior. What about Henrietta? 20 years for the church theft, 10 for child abuse. The sentences would be consecutive. She's looking at 30 years minimum. Adam thought about it. What if they refuse the deal? Then it goes to trial. They could face 40 years each if convicted on all counts. That evening, Adam was sitting with Taylor in her hospital room when his phone rang. Unknown number. Hello, Adam, it's me. Maris's voice, calling from jail. Adam almost hung up, but something made him stay on the line. What do you want, Maris? I want to explain. About Taylor, about everything. There's nothing to explain. I heard the recordings. I saw what you did to her. That wasn't me. That was my mother. I never hurt Taylor. Adam looked down at his daughter, sleeping peacefully for the first time in weeks. You left her outside in a thunderstorm. You let your mother abuse her. You lied to the court about me. I was scared, Adam. My mother, she has this way of making you believe things. She said Taylor wasn't really ours, that she was a punishment for our sins. So you decided to punish an innocent child. There was a long pause. I know how it sounds, but I was drowning, Adam. The debt, the pressure, my mother constantly telling me I was a failure as a wife and mother. So you planned to destroy my life and steal my money. It wasn't supposed to go this far. At first, it was just about the divorce, getting half of everything. But then my mother said we could get more if we made you look dangerous. Adam's grip tightened on the phone. You nearly killed our daughter for money. She's not our daughter. Maris's voice cracked. The paternity test proved it. You raised another man's child for 18 months. I raised my daughter. Blood doesn't make you a parent. Love does. And you never loved her. I try to love her. But every time I looked at her, I saw my failure. My weakness. Your weakness was listening to your mother. Your weakness was putting money ahead of an innocent child. Maris was crying now. Adam, I'm sorry. I know I can't undo what I did, but I'm sorry. Sorry doesn't fix the nightmares Taylor's going to have. Sorry doesn't heal the bruises your mother left on her. Sorry doesn't give back the weeks she spent thinking her father abandoned her. What do you want me to do? I want you to sign away your parental rights. I want you to never contact Taylor again. And I want you to serve every day of whatever sentence you get. Adam hung up. The formal custody hearing was held the following Monday. The courtroom was packed with reporters, townspeople, and church members who wanted to see justice done. Dina Sorrell testified about the fabricated CPS report, explaining how the documents had been backdated and forged. Her testimony was calm and professional, but damning. In 15 years of processing family court documents, I've never seen a case file this obviously falsified, she said. Rory Kemp followed with her professional assessment of the original investigation. Standard protocol requires home visits, interviews with neighbors, and medical examinations by licensed pediatricians. None of these steps were followed. The case was rubber-stamped based on falsified evidence. The recording of Maris's phone call was played for the court. Her admission that the plan had been orchestrated by Henrietta, that the goal was financial gain rather than child protection, sealed their fate. Judge Coleman's ruling was swift and final. I'm granting full custody to Mr. Ridley, with all parental rights of Mrs. Clay terminated effective immediately. The evidence shows a deliberate conspiracy to defraud the court and endanger a child for financial gain. She looked directly at the space where Maris and Henrietta would have sat if they weren't in jail. This court has rarely seen such calculated cruelty toward a defenseless child. The defendants have shown complete disregard for the welfare of the minor, using her as a pawn in an elaborate financial scheme. Adam felt a weight lift from his chest that he'd been carrying since the night of the storm. Taylor was officially his. Forever. 2 months later, Adam stood in the driveway of the house he'd built with his own hands. Taylor sat in her stroller beside him, playing with her stuffed elephant and babbling happily. The house looked different now. Smaller somehow. The windows were dark, the lawn overgrown. A for sale sign had been planted in the front yard, but there were no takers. Nobody wanted to buy the house where a child had been abused. Adam had a different plan. He'd brought a can of black paint and a brush. Working carefully, he painted 4 words across the front of the house in letters 2 feet tall. Liar's Nest. Taylor clapped her hands, thinking it was a game. Adam smiled at her, then packed up his supplies. He drove to the offices of Safe Harbor Women's Shelter and handed the deed to Director Martha Young. It's a 3-bedroom house with a full basement and a large backyard, Adam explained. It needs some work, but it's structurally sound. Martha looked at the deed in amazement. Mr. Ridley, this is incredibly generous, but we can't accept. Yes, you can. The house was built with love, but it was poisoned by lies and cruelty. Maybe you can clean it out, make it a place where people can heal. What about the message painted on the front? Leave it up for a week. Let people see what happens to those who hurt children. Then paint over it and make it a home again. The trials began in October. Henrietta Clay was the first to face judgment. At 79, she cut a pathetic figure in the defendant's chair, no longer the imposing religious matriarch who'd terrorized a toddler. The evidence against her was overwhelming. Financial records showing systematic theft from the church. Audio recordings of her abusing Taylor. Testimony from former church members about her history of manipulative behavior. The jury deliberated for less than 2 hours. Guilty on all counts. Judge Morrison sentenced her to 35 years in prison without the possibility of parole for 15 years. Mrs. Clay, the judge said, "You use your position of trust in the community to steal money from people who believe in your mission. More seriously, you systematically abused a defenseless child, treating her with cruelty that shocks the conscience of this court." Henrietta showed no emotion as the sentence was read. Even facing the rest of her life in prison, she maintained the cold arrogance that had defined her. That Maris's trial was more complicated. Her defense attorney argued that she'd been manipulated by her domineering mother, that she was as much a victim as Taylor. The prosecution, led by Ada Morrison, wasn't buying it. Maris Clay made a choice. Morrison told the jury. When she discovered her husband wasn't the biological father of their child, she could have sought counseling. She could have asked for a divorce. Instead, she chose to orchestrate an elaborate fraud designed to destroy an innocent man and steal his property. The recording of her phone call to Adam was played again. Her admission that the plan was motivated by greed, not fear, undermined her defense. The jury found her guilty of fraud, perjury, and child endangerment. Judge Morrison sentenced her to 20 years in prison, with the possibility of parole after 12. Mrs. Clay, you betrayed the most fundamental duty of motherhood. You put financial gain ahead of your child's welfare and safety. This court can show no mercy for such calculated cruelty. Adam wasn't in the courtroom for either sentencing. He was at home with Taylor, helping her take her first steps in their new house by the lake. The house was small but comfortable, with a big yard where Taylor could play safely. Adam had installed security cameras and motion sensors, not because he was paranoid, but because he would never again take chances with his daughter's safety. In the evenings, after Taylor was asleep, Adam would sit on the porch and look out of the water. The lake was peaceful, surrounded by woods that turned brilliant colors in the fall. It was the kind of place where a child could grow up happy and safe. Sometimes people from town would stop by to check on them. Dell came by every weekend to help with household projects. Dina Sorrell brought Taylor toys and books. Even Rory Kemp visited occasionally, marveling at how well Taylor was recovering. "She's a resilient little girl," Rory said during one visit. Children are amazing that way. Given love and stability, they can heal from almost anything. One evening in November, as Adam was putting Taylor to bed, she looked up at him with her dark eyes and said something that nearly broke his heart. "Dada, bad lady gone?" "Yes, baby. The bad ladies are gone. They can't hurt you anymore. Dada, stay. Daddy's never leaving you again. Never, ever." Taylor smiled and closed her eyes, safe in her father's arms. 3 years later, Adam received a letter from the state correctional facility where Maris was serving her sentence. She was requesting a visit, claiming she wanted to apologize and ask about Taylor. Adam threw the letter in the trash without reading it completely. That evening, Taylor was playing in the backyard while Adam worked on replacing a section of fence. She ran up to him with a dandelion she'd picked, her face bright with joy. "Present for Daddy." Adam took the flower and tucked it behind her ear. "Thank you, baby. That's beautiful. Daddy, why don't I have a mommy like other kids?" It was a question Adam had been dreading and preparing for. Taylor was old enough now to notice that her family was different from others. "You had a mommy once," Adam said carefully, "but she made some bad choices and she had to go away. Will she come back?" "No, sweetheart. She can't come back." "That's okay," Taylor said, hugging his leg. "I have you." Later that night, after Taylor was asleep, Adam sat on the porch looking out at the lake. A neighbor walking his dog stopped to chat. "Adam, I've been meaning to ask, do you ever regret what happened? I mean, if you could go back and fix things with your ex-wife, make it work somehow." Adam thought about the question for a long moment. He thought about the man he'd been 3 years ago, the man who believed in loyalty and forgiveness, who thought family meant working through problems no matter what he thought about Taylor, sleeping peacefully upstairs, safe and loved. "I don't miss Rot," Adam said finally. "I removed it." The neighbor looked confused, but Adam didn't elaborate. Some truths were too simple for complicated explanations. Justice wasn't about forgiveness or redemption. Sometimes it was just about protecting the innocent and making sure evil faced consequences. Adam had learned that lesson in the hardest way possible. But looking out at the peaceful lake, listening to the gentle sounds of his daughter sleeping safely in her bed, he knew it was a lesson worth learning. The rain had washed away everything false, leaving only what was real: love, protection, justice, and that was enough.